Well, this is the big breaking story at this hour. Remember, we told you that there was some clarification that was expected from the Reserve Bank of India. This is a Gazette notification that has been issued by the Ministry of Finance, the Department of Financial Services. I'm reading it out for the benefit of all of our viewers who are just joining in. In exercise of the powers conferred by subsection 2 of Section 45 of the Banking Regulation Act, the central government, after considering an application made by the Reserve Bank of India under subsection 1, makes an order of moratorium in respect of Yes Bank for the period from 1800 hours on March 5th, 2020 up to and inclusive of April 3rd, 2020, and hereby stays the commencement or continuance of all actions and proceedings against the banking company during the period of moratorium, subject to the condition that such stay shall not in any manner prejudice the exercise of the central government of its powers under Clause B of subsection 4 of subsection 35 of the said Act. This is the sum and substance. This is the Gazette notification that's come in. My colleague Ritu Singh has gone over some of the details as well. Now, Ritu, what are some of the other details that the Gazette notification has put forward?
Well, most importantly, Shireen, no depositor of Yes Bank that has a current or saving or any other account with Yes Bank can withdraw more than 50,000 rupees in total from the bank without prior RBI permission. It also says Yes Bank cannot release more than 50,000 rupees to any creditor without prior RBI permission, in effect putting a moratorium on the bank. The reason for this has not been given, but this has been done under Section 35A of the Banking Act. Further, it says there can be exceptions made in the case of real emergencies, which is the standard procedure that RBI does use, in cases where withdrawal exemptions, where withdrawal restrictions are put. It does allow, specific withdrawals for emergencies like education, marriage, or for some other unforeseen emergency medical payments, those kind of things. If, the depositor applies to the Reserve Bank of India, they can be released an amount of up to 5 lakh rupees. But beyond that, for now, it looks like depositors of Yes Bank will not be able to access these funds. Shireen, important to note that at least over the last 2 quarters, there has been a steady fall in the deposit base of Yes Bank. Clearly, some of the news going around about Yes Bank not being able to raise funds has created some bit of a, worry in the mind of depositors who are then moving to withdraw money, and therefore to prevent a run on the bank, to ensure that this rumor mongering does not actually lead to a run on the bank, it seems that Reserve Bank of India has taken this step where it has limited the amount that can be withdrawn from a particular account. We're of course awaiting more details on what the next steps would be. But for now, yes, it seems that Reserve Bank of India wants to ring fence Yes Bank before any further damage happens.
Yes, Ritu, I'm going to come back to you, so hang in there while you go over some of the other fine print of this Gazette notification. But let me bring in Ashwin Parikh. Mr. Parikh, this is a Gazette notification that has been issued by the central government, putting withdrawal limits. Given what Ritu was telling us and what is now expected in terms of a rescue plan, this might be part of the government's efforts to ring fence. But what do you make of this notification per se?
Well, I mean, an important notification, because I suppose a precursor to any particular, let's say, moratorium action that the regulator may then conduct. It's important that there is no run on the bank, that some amount of sort of stability is provided to the institution for the time being, till such time as some clarity in terms of the moratorium, the second aspect of moratorium, in which case it will be declared in terms of who will, thereafter, take up the entire assets and liabilities of the bank. I mean, one has to see what scheme is getting evolved by the regulator in terms of the future steps. But at least, I mean, a very commendable step at the moment, instead of creating some kind of a run on the bank, and in order to make sure that there is such amount of stability in the system. You see, banking system is so interconnected, Shireen, that, any run or any rumor, let's say, or any wrong act, at one quarter of the banking system can have its impact on the entire system. So very commendable, very bold step, I must say, and then at the right time. The regulator cannot be blamed for, because I think the regulator gave Yes Bank enough time. And perhaps Yes Bank did try out several investors in the last few months but there was no investor or set of investors coming forward to put in the required capital. So in that backdrop, the regulatory action and the central government's action are very valid, I would say, Shri.
Yes, as we've been pointing out, this is official now. This is a Gazette notification issued by the Ministry of Finance, putting withdrawal limits in place to ring-fence Yes Bank from any possibility of a run on the bank. This is perhaps the first step, as we were pointing out earlier through the course of the day, that there is a rescue plan that is being worked out because the government and the regulator, that's the Reserve Bank of India, didn't get the comfort on Yes Bank being able to raise the required requisite capital ahead of that deadline, which was looming large. Ritu, you wanted to add more?
Well, yes, besides paying 50,000, up to 50,000 to creditors and depositors, there is an exception that the Reserve Bank, that the government has made for as far as payments by Yes Bank are concerned. Point number 4, it does note that during the period of the moratorium, Yes Bank can make the following payments. That is the amounts for repaying loans or advances granted against government securities to the banking company by Reserve Bank of India or State Bank of India or any other bank, and the remaining unpaid date on which the order comes into force, which means, any advances that are due on those repayments can be made still by Yes Bank, and specifically State Bank of India has been mentioned along with other banking institutions or any government institutions.
You just want to read that out, Ritu, that specific paragraph? Yeah, I think I got that. It's paragraph 4. It says the central government hereby also directs that the banking company may, during the period of the moratorium imposed on it, make the following further payments, namely the amounts for repaying loans or advances granted against government securities or other securities to the banking company by the Reserve Bank of India or the State Bank of India or by any bank, and remaining unpaid on the date on which this order comes into force. So these are some of the other this is the fine print that's coming in from that Gazette notification. Lata also with us. Lata, this is the first official step taken by the government.
Yes, I think the fact that the bank has not called the bonds, or rather redeemed the bonds, would perhaps be seen by the government as a potential trigger for a run on the bank. Tomorrow people could panic, and maybe that is why they have proactively moved in. Maybe they would have been, under normal circumstances, willing to give the bank time till March 14th. But because of this bond becoming due and probably Yes Bank falling short on the capital and therefore not allowed to redeem it, has led to some kind of a default. They can't even pay the interest. And therefore, this could trigger panic, and maybe that's why they have moved in. So now, since the government has moved in, there are no half houses over here. Chances are that we will get to hear more. After all, we have heard so much about SBI probably being asked to take some interest in the bank.
Yeah, and I just want to point out again, for the benefit of all of our viewers who are tuning in, the moratorium is from 1800 hours on the 5th of March to the 3rd of April 2020. So that is what the Gazette notification says in terms of the moratorium order that has been issued by the Ministry of Finance. We are going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. This is a big breaking story. We'll get you more reactions after this very short break.